What's up, people? I am back. Sorry I'm doing doing this video a day later, but I couldn't get to it last night. And I was kind of tired. I don't want to be yawning during the video. So I just figured I would just do it in the afternoon. And the horror movie I'm going to review tonight is called Intruder. So this one's actually going to be a first time watch tonight. It's called Intruder. It came out in 81, I think. The premise, all I know is it's basically about, I guess, a killer killing people during the graveyard shift. So, and another movie I plan on reviewing next week, I watched on Monday, was The Stepfather, the original. I know there's like a remake that came out in 2009, and apparently there's a sequel too. So I might do those two and then do the remakes. I know there's a third one, but the third one doesn't even have the same guy. So I might do the first two and then definitely might check out the remake. So why not have some horror movies to review? So we'll probably do the Stepfather more likely next Wednesday. But today, I am doing The Dark Knight, the second of the Nolan trilogy, and man, this was such a great theater experience. I'm not gonna lie. I was really just wondering, how are they gonna top themselves after Batman Begins? And man, I think Begins, though, in the long run is the best one, but Dark Knight is probably the better film. I think Dark Knight is so well made. I have a couple issues. For one, I don't love what they do with Scarecrow in this. He's just there he's not wearing hockey pads. He's there for that. And they just make him like just a generic gangster. I do love that intro, though, with the Joker and the reveal that it's the Joker. They rob a bank, and they just start killing each other, and we get the reveal that the guy who's doing the killing is actually the Joker. So I'll admit, that is an awesome opening scene. That opening scene still hits today. Like I said, there's a couple things I don't think age as well. I would say this is kind of the start of Bale's Batman not being that great. I don't like the newer suit. I understood what they were going for because they're trying to. The thought process is it's going to be more sleek and he's going to move around more, but it looks like a motocross outfit. It just does not age well. Compared to the first suit he has from Begins, and it's weird because at the time I was the opposite. I really liked the suit he got in this. But in my opinion, I do prefer the Begins suit. I don't know. It looks more comic booky compared to the suit in this one, which was just kind of I don't know. I get it's supposed to be realistic, but I also don't think it looks great. And also his voice is where it gets really bad. And some of those fight scenes are just not good. I'm sorry. It's just not. I think it was almost edited better in Begins, the fight scenes, compared to the ones in here. Because some of the way he just does hits, I'm like, this is supposed to be one of the greatest martial artists. I just don't get that from Bale's Batman. I'm sorry. I think that's the one aspect I do like the Batcave, though, and I love those scenes with Alfred again. I mean, those scenes with Alfred always hit. Some people just want to watch the world burn, Mr. Wayne. That's such a good scene. There's a lot of just great dialogue. Obviously, you live long enough to be the villain. Kind of deal from Harvey, who, in my opinion, Aaron Eckhart is a great Two-Face. Obviously the only thing is the whole tortured soul thing, because that's not really Two-Face. Two-Face is just it's like a jerk-to-jerkle Mr. Hyde, but I think they got that aspect right. I think the only thing is Aaron Eckhart should have had more scenes as Two-Face. I felt like, obviously, he's only really Two-Face in the last 30 minutes, and even then, it cuts between him and then cutting back to, obviously, when Batman, they get the Joker, and he has to stop the hostages. And then when he finally confronts Den in the end, which I'll admit, that was good. And I do really love Gary Oldman in this. There's a lot of things I love about this movie. I think Dark Knight is just Heath Ledger's performance is iconic. It's not my definitive version of the Joker, because Joker is kind of an anarchist, but he also does love money. He would not just burn money. He wouldn't do that. That's just keeping it real. But I understood the scene still was really good. The action was good. The only thing I don't love is that Gotham change. I don't know if just Christopher Nolan didn't want to do a miniature because it looked like he used miniatures for Gotham It Begins. I don't know if he just didn't want to do that again, so they're just like, just use a city. And I think in the long run, it hurt the movie because Gotham just looks like a generic city. And this is where it starts. I love this film, but that is where this starts because Gotham is so good it begins. And then in this, it's just kind of just looks like a city to me. You know, I'm wrong. The chase scene with the Batmobile or all the cops and or the chase scene in the end when they, the whole trap where they take Joker. Obviously, the interrogation scene, which is going to be the thumbnail for this video, is so iconic too. I mean, where are they? Like, I remember seeing, like, this whole movie was an experience seeing it the first time in the theater. Like, for a long fucking time, I'm going to be honest with you. This was one of my, like, probably my favorite comic book movie. Obviously, it's not up there now. Watchmen is my number one now, but it's up there. I still would put it in the top 5. Like, this was a comic book film that also did try to be cinema. You got to give it to Christopher Nolan. I have a few issues, especially being more of a Batman fan. Like, obviously the fighting, I don't love the voice. The voice is not, it's not as bad as it gets in Rises is when it's at its worst. So we're going to be talking about that film next. I plan on trying to do that on Tuesday next week. So, but I mean, Christian Bale's great. The scene on the boats where basically both sides refuse to blow each other up is so well done. This whole film is incredible. I feel bad for people who didn't get to see this in theaters at the time because this was a theater experience for me. I was so happy. I was like, that whole year in 2008, I was very much anticipating that movie because I really loved Batman Begins. And I thought this was definitely a worthy follow-up. Minus some of the little, obviously gripes I have, but I largely still think this film is iconic. It's still great. That speech in the end is always great, So I love Batman. I love The Dark Knight. R.I.P. Heath Ledger. Sucks he died after this movie, or while making this movie, or it was after, one of the two. But, it sucks, but he will always be remembered. A lot of people, like, to this day will say this is, like, in terms of performance in a comic book film, this is probably seen as the best. I don't think it is. I think it's up there, though. He was so great. But to me, obviously, I still prefer Nicholson as Joker just because he's a bit more, like, closer to the comic. But I still definitely love Ledger's performance, and I'm happy to have at least seen it in the theater. Oh, the other negative I don't like Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel. She's not a good actress. And everybody talks about how she's ugly. Yeah, I agree. She's not attractive. But that's not really my problem. And obviously, the meme, everyone's like, you're so beautiful. And then it's like, he must be lying. Like, yeah. There's that. For me, it's more her acting, especially in the death scene. Not as bad as Talia al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises. If I had to say worst death in the Nolan trilogy in terms of acting, it's that one. But this one's almost up there. Her acting in this is so bad. The speech she tries to give before getting blown up is so fucking terrible. And it sucks that apparently Tom Cruise talked Katie Holmes out of doing Dark Knight into doing some other movie that didn't do well, which sucks because I think she would have been better. Because Maggie Gyllenhaal, especially just like compared to the level of actors that are in this film, and then she just stands out. And especially the scenes where you try to have, like, she tries to talk to Bruce or as with Harvey, and she just doesn't hit. She's not a good actress, especially in this movie. And her death scene was just so badly acted. Of all, like, the only thing where I'm like, especially because how great this film is, and that death scene just sticks out like a sore thumb. So aside from that, like, I pretty much love this movie. I still to this day love this movie. Not my favorite of the Nolan trilogy, though. In the long run, I really think it's Batman Begins. I think that one's the most like the fucking comics, and the Gotham aesthetic, just everything about it. It's just, it's a perfect Batman film, minus, obviously what they did with Scarecrow, but yeah. So it's like 89 and Begins are like tied for me as my favorite Batman film. But this is up there. I mean, this is I still say is one of my favorite theatrical experiences for sure. So the plan is, like I said, later Intruder. Tomorrow I will be reviewing Exorcist 3, which I think I've seen it once, but I don't really remember it. This is one though I know a lot of people really like. Like of like the Exorcist sequels, this is one a lot of people like. So definitely, and I saw that Brad Dourif's in. I was like, okay, this could be fun. So I'll be reviewing that. I'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, but let's get into the Dark Knight. And as I talked about a bit ago, this opening scene is so fucking awesome. These guys in clown masks robbing this bank. You get a cool fight scene because apparently the bank they're robbing is the leader is part of the mob. It's a mob bank basically because he ends up fighting back a little bit, like shooting at them, but obviously he ends up getting hurt. And then basically slowly the couple of the clowns are killing each other because obviously they want to take all the cut. And then obviously that reveal, because obviously because one of them points a gun, and then I'll just say it, Joker, and then the bus comes and he gets hit, and that's when we get the reveal that it's the Joker because the guy's voice changes and you hear Heath's voice. It is so fucking incredible. It still is such an awesome opening scene. I wish it was not during the day. I think that'd be my only change. I think anything during Gotham should not really happen during the day. I understand Nolan probably maybe in real life wherever they filmed, because it looked like New York to me, but I don't know, I could be wrong. Probably can only maybe do it during the day, but I just feel like stuff in Gotham should always be nighttime. Crimes, even obviously the Batman stuff, but I just think that should be a night thing or evening. I would have even defined if it was early evening. Like if it was like you did the scene at like 7, where it's not pitch black yet, right? You still have a little bit of little bit of daylight, a little bit, but it's starting to get dark. I would have been fine if you did it then. I just felt like doing it because I was like early in the fucking day. I was like, I didn't, maybe this is something now, and it could just be my Batman nitpicking in me, Batman fan nitpicking in me. But in the next sequence, sorry about that, you hear Batman basically get the reintroduction of Scarecrow, making a deal of I'm assuming is the Scarecrow fear gas. And I just don't really like that they relegate him to basically a mob. He's making a deal with the mob, essentially. It's just like, come on, man. Scarecrow is a big Batman villain, and I understand this was like a year before the first Arkham game came out. But it's just, I really feel like Scarecrow could be such potential. Granted, it's cool that they got Cillian Murphy to come back, but he's only there for a scene because you got these guys in fake Batman costumes who use guns trying to stop, and then that's when we have the real Batman show up, fight some of them. We get he ends up stopping Penguin. Not Penguin, Scarecrow. The scene where he jumps on the van, I'll admit that shot is fucking awesome. And then, meets Gordon. And then this is where we meet Harvey Dent, who I love Aaron Eckhart in this movie. His scene in the courtroom, he's trying to prosecute a big time mobster, and he ends up almost getting killed, but he punches the guy out. I really do they do really do a good job of making Harvey look like this guy could be the next hero in Gotham. That's kind of what they were trying to go for, because Batman feels like it's a way for him to. I should have mentioned. A big gripe of this film, and it's not necessarily this film. This is more for the next one, but it does start in this, at least in the very end. The whole him retiring. Batman doesn't retire. If he, I mean, I know he retired in Dark Knight Returns, but he was old. Or in Batman Begin, or in Batman Beyond, but he was forced to because he had a bad heart. That's the only reason. He didn't necessarily, he was forced to retire in Beyond. I'm okay with him retiring if he's old. Not, he was only Batman for fucking a couple of years and he's already retired. Like, what? That's stupid. That's bad writing. And I love Batman, but no, I just feel like that was, it'd be one thing if he went into hiding after the Dark Knight, you know, like, because obviously they launched an investigation on Batman towards the end. Because Batman basically, because Harvey dies, he wanted to do something so Harvey, they don't discover that Harvey was actually the one doing some bad stuff, essentially. So I understand that shit, but I don't love him just retiring. And I'll admit, this is more for the next film, because it's not really, because this is at the very end of this film, so it doesn't fully affect this one. It's more for the next one, but does need to get mentioned. Um, so he's dating Rachel, and I just, like I said, Maggie Gyllenhaal just isn't great in this. She's not. She doesn't stand out compared to Katie Holmes, who at least felt like a character. And she was in this movie, and with her, she doesn't do anything matters besides having a couple of scenes with Bruce, but it's largely Christian Bale or Aaron Eckhart if she's doing scenes with him. He's the one. They're the ones carrying the scene. She's just there. You know what it is. She has no personality. The way she delivers lines, very just blank and boring. It's like, god damn. At least Katie Holmes had emotion, and it really sucks that Tom Cruise. I'll say Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise basically convinced her to do another fucking movie instead of doing this, because I think if Katie Holmes wasn't in The Dark Knight, as much as, don't get me wrong, The Dark Knight's still an iconic film. I don't think necessarily just because she's in it, she brings it down or anything, but I just think it would be that much better if it was Katie Holmes, because especially too, I would feel more for Rachel's death if it was Katie Holmes. Not just because it's the Rachel we saw, but also I just think she's a better actress. You know, I think I've seen Maggie Gyllenhaal some stuff where she's okay, but I just don't think she fits in this movie with some of the level of actors that are in this movie. To me, she just sticks out. Her death scene was badly acted, so I think that's just part of the reason it's hard to care for her death. I think her death scene would be so much more well done if it was Katie Holmes, and because she would have had a better performance, and you would have been like, okay, this death hits. It doesn't hit because Maggie Gyllenhaal's bad acting just brings it down. I'm not going to necessarily say it to the point where I don't care, but it's almost there. It's just like it does take away a little bit, because you do want to feel bad for Rachel, especially if you want to feel bad for Bruce, right? Or and you know Harvey, but it's like hard to when she was so badly acted. Then that's all I'm gonna think about now. Anyway, I love the scene with all the meeting of the gangsters and the mob, basically needing protection from Batman and the Joker, and that's when the Joker makes his services free. You know, offer to kill the Batman. I do love the magic trick scene where the scene with the pen. Like, this movie is PG-13, but it is a hard PG-13 because there is some blood, and I mean even the pencil in the eye, like, and I do love that Michael Jai White's in this. I thought he does a really good job, especially considering he shows he has range, because most movies he plays like a martial artist. So it is kind of nice to see him in a movie where he's not that. He's actually just playing a gangster. Granted, he's not in it a lot because he ends up getting killed later on, but I do think his scene still stands out, even if he's just in it for a little bit. I thought so. Then a police commissioner and like the mayor, or someone big in Gotham politics, is killed with a bomb, and then this is where you get the iconic dinner scene. Oh, before that, yeah, the hero, you know, you live long enough to be a villain. That scene is iconic. I mean, that's a quote when you think that quote also just applies in real life. So I love that Nolan has those touches. Um, I do love the sequence in Japan, not Japan, in China, or I think it's Hong Kong, where Batman has to get Hao, I think is his name, because he's trying to avoid extradition. So Batman basically goes and then um, goes and gets them. He gets him, and basically the guy names a bunch of people, and then basically all their like safe houses and all the money are taken, and that's when they basically agree to let Joker. And then Joker has like a hostile takeover, and that's when he kills Michael Jai White and his crew. I do love the pacing of this movie. It is a little bit long. It's like 2 hours, like 2.5 hours, but it is paced well. I love the dinner scene. It's so iconic. You know, the almost like the first face off between Batman and Joker, and it's like I remember wanting to see this because it was like, oh, the first face off between this iteration of Batman and Joker, and it delivers. And I think the one thing that both this and 89 have is the dynamic between Batman and Joker is perfect. I should have mentioned that in this review, but I'm gonna mention it now. The dynamic between Batman and Joker is fucking perfect in this. It is like that is what you need because you gotta have Batman, the yin and the yang. You can't if you're gonna do a Batman movie with the Joker, they better have good chemistry with each other, especially in the interrogation scene. Is so well done. The way Joker is able to push Batman's buttons. He's one of the few who can do that because most of the time Batman largely tries to do the not calm, cool, and collected, but he's also supposed to be intimidating. He generally tries not to get pushed into emotional. Largely, he tries to be logical, and if he has to, then he gets emotional. But largely, he tries to not. But Joker's one of the few people that can push his buttons to where he can get emotional, and I think you always need that dynamic. I mean, obviously to the point, like look at the interrogation scene where Joker pushed Bruce's buttons about Rachel, and Joker pushes Batman's buttons about Rachel. He ends up beating the shit out of him. So that is how you do it. Like, you gotta have that. And I think this film has it in spades. All their scenes together. Even though Heath Ledger is not in this film a lot, if you think about it. And then there's a scene he kills another senator. And obviously there's this. I love the scene where Harvey has a moment because they're even in the comics when he's Harvey, he has that two-faced personality come out. Every now and then his anger comes out, and then he does the flip the coin, and I love it. Bruce tries to stop him, obviously ends up stopping him from killing the guy. Batman. So back to the dinner scene where he ends up saving Rachel, and Morgan. Oh, I love that Lucius Fox gets a bit more of a role in this. Morgan Freeman is so good in this movie. I don't remember if you remember Returns and Rises. I think he does, at least for a scene, but I could be wrong. So, but he is great in this movie. I love the scene where the Joker is torturing the fake Batmans on video. I love that, like, horror movie. Like, it did for a second, like that, because he was using it with his camera. And then I love the different origins that Joker would tell, because you don't get his flat out origin. That's one thing for me. I think Joker shouldn't have an origin. Killing Joke is like a what if story. That's how I always saw it. It's not necessarily his exact canon. It's almost like this is maybe what his origin would have been like. That's kind of how I look at the Killing Joke. I don't look at that as his actual origin story. So the Joker basically is threatening Gotham if Batman doesn't reveal himself, and because they feel like because they want Harvey, because Bruce feels like Harvey is the next in line to be the next hero for Gotham. So he's almost getting ready to take a step back, which now in hindsight, I don't love. Batman wouldn't do that. I get he would love Harvey as a potential hero for the city. Batman wouldn't just retire. I don't. Maybe that Nolan felt like, oh, like he can have this symbolic kind of thing, but I just feel like Batman just would not retire, especially not that young. What Batman is driven by, he wouldn't just retire that young. It's one of those things he has to do it. I mean, he was forced to retire in Batman Beyond because of his heart, and Dark Knight Returns, he just got older. And I was okay with that. Dark Knight Returns in some people's eyes is a what if. It's not necessarily a canonical DC Batman story. I consider it canonical, but I know there are some people out there that don't. So they set a trap for the Joker where the Joker attacks the police truck, thinking Harvey's in it, but obviously it was always a trap. And then the Batmobile shows up. It sucks that the Tumbler gets taken out pretty much for the rest of the movie. Though it has been called the Bat Pod, the motorcycle, which was pretty cool. I did love that. I remember the first time watching that in theater, and it first turned into the Bat Pod. I was like, oh shit, okay, it's a motorcycle. The scene where Joker is getting ready to face, kind of like if you remember in Batman '89, where Joker it's instead of the Bat Pod, it was the Bat Plane there, but before he shot it down, you kind of had a similar scene here, but it was a trap by Gordon and all of them. So Joker gets arrested. Like, this movie is paced well, even though it is 2.5 hours. One thing I will give Nolan. He knows how to make use of time. Yeah, his movies are a bit longer. Like, even in Oppenheimer, I didn't review it, but Oppenheimer was really good. And even that movie, I think that movie's definitely longer than this one. That one is even paced well. I didn't feel like, okay, I'm just bored. Dark Knight, I think Rises is the only one where I remember the pacing not being that great. But in the last rewatch of that one I did. So, but this one, even though, yeah, it's 2.5 hours, that's not a short movie. To me, 2.5 hours is not uber long, but that's also not short either. So, but it didn't feel 2.5 hours. Like, it goes, I feel like. I don't feel like there was a point I'm like, okay, I'm bored, or, I'm not interested. It's still a compelling film. And I even love the sequence. Well, I skipped over this, I should have mentioned. When he's driving the Batmobile. I mean, not the Batmobile, when he's Bruce Wayne and he's driving his Lamborghini. I fucking love that scene. And then obviously he gets ran over. And we get to see him kind of do stuff as Bruce Wayne. I've always liked that. Like, yeah, he's Batman, but when he sometimes has to just do stuff as Bruce, I know, and that's going to be the movie I'm reviewing later, but BVS, when Bruce goes to Lex's thing to get some information, he goes as Bruce Wayne. Instead of Batman. So I really love when Bruce sometimes just has to do stuff as Bruce. And I just love the scene with the Lamborghini. It just looks cool. So that was just nice. But then he gets ready to suit up. And this is where, if you remember, he has that whole Uber super camera on everybody. And Lucius Fox hates it. So basically he says he'll do it, but he will resign because he plans on trying to stop the Joker and stop the boats from blowing up. So one boat is loaded with... Oh, I skipped over the interrogation scene. I'm kind of jumping around. But, so after apprehending the Joker, Batman interrogates him. And initially, it's calm. Batman almost was like heading the interrogation. But then Joker reveals he never actually intended on killing Batman. And that he reveals that... Harvey and Rachel are in different locations, and this is where you get the scene where he pushes Bruce's, because I think it's implied, he doesn't outright say it, but it's implied that he figured out that Joker figured out that Bruce is Batman, because he basically pushes his buttons about Rachel. So he knows he's in love with. That's why I've always figured, I didn't know this at the time, obviously watching it, I was just watching it, but when you think about it, it makes sense. yeah, he knows Bruce is Batman. He knows, he just doesn't say it. But I do love that even this movie acknowledges that they don't use the word, but like the yin and the yang of Batman and the Joker. I really do love that, and like this scene is like personifies. I love their chemistry. Like they really did bounce off of each other. Christian Bale and Heath Ledger did, and it really works. But obviously, my favorite Joker is still um, uh, Jack Nicholson, but I really do think Heath Ledger, performance wise, I gotta say it's him. His performance in this is iconic, even just down to his little movements and stuff like that. So performance wise, I would still say Ledger, but as overall, I'd still say Nicholson, just because I thought Nicholson was able to do both. Because Joker would not burn money. I know it's a cool scene just for the film, and then he ends up killing Dow, but I don't really think that would happen. Um, Batman, Joker isn't about burning money. Joker is still the clown prince of crime. He would need money for that. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a cool scene just because it's symbolic and and visually, I guess I admit the imagery is cool. But anyway, so after revealing their plan, and then we get the where are they? Joker gives them the location, but he gives them the wrong location. Not the wrong one necessarily. He gives them each a different location. The cops are going for Rachel, while no, Bruce goes for Rachel, while the cops are going for Harvey. But it turns out he gave them the wrong information, and Batman ends up getting there too late. Because the cops managed to save Harvey in time, but he didn't save Rachel, and she ends up dying. And this is where you get the really bad fucking speech. And Harvey's almost like, kill me, because I guess he can hear her like in some kind of voice thing. And yeah, I don't. Her death scene is just, I should feel for it, but it's like Maggie Gyllenhaal's acting just really brings it down. And I just feel like, too, she didn't do enough in the film for me to want to feel bad for her death. Like, she did way more in Batman Begins than I feel like in this one. In this one, she just kind of dies, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And it's a performance. I think if it was Katie Holmes and she still had a great performance or decent enough performance, but even if the same amount of scenes, I think it would have worked. I don't think it works here for me, just because the bad acting from her really brings it down, especially the way she does that speech. Where, to me, of the entire movie, this is her worst acting. The way she just delivers the line, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm supposed to like be in my feels for this, and I'm not. Because I think, like I said, the scene itself with a different actress I really think it would hit. It's just Maggie Gyllenhaal just wasn't it. I don't know personally don't know what Christopher Nolan saw in her, if I'm being honest. And I know everyone goes in on her looks. Yeah, she's not attractive, but that's not the only problem. I just don't think she's a good actress. At least enough for this film, anyway. So it ignites with Harvey, and obviously half of his face gets on fire, and then Harvey's mad at Bruce for saving him instead of her. And then this is where you get the hospital scene, which is really iconic, where Joker poses as a nurse, goes to Harvey, basically manages to convince him to basically get revenge. So Harvey gets revenge on all the mobsters who are involved with Rachel, while the people are being loaded on the boats. And this scene, the boats, I'm just gonna kind of jump to the boat scene because that's pretty much the next sequence, really. Aside, there's a sequence between Bruce and Lucius, which I thought was really good. It is such a just this third act is really fucking incredible, man. Like, it picks up like the way they go back and forth from the boats, the civilian boats and then the prisoner boats. And Tiny Lister is in it, and he's kind of like each person is like the lead of the group. There's like a lead of the civilians and then a leader of the prisoners, and Tiny Lister's the leader of the prisoners. Hold on. Um, and they both basically refused to blow the other boats up. Shocking, which I do like. It really did show like God. There is hope in Gotham. Like I mean, going, I will say, it kind of does even kind of call back to Batman Begins, because Batman Begins, one of the things, reasons the League of Shadows wanted to destroy Gotham was they thought it was like a bunch of scum and people don't care about each other. But and then it really comes full circle when the civilian side and even the prisoner side, which is a bunch of murderers, by the way, both are like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to play his fucking game. I was like, okay, there is hope. You know, I always figured there was a slimmer because Harvey or even the Batman brought that hope out of people. I think it really helps. Oh, the one thing I should have mentioned, the scene though I really think emphasizes the Batman is when they did the light. It's earlier in the film, way like in the beginning, where they shined his bat signal and all the criminals basically kind of were like, nope. Like the guy was about to make, like, I'm assuming it was like a drug deal, and the guy saw that light. He's like, nope, nope. Everybody's like, nope. All the criminals, like, there was that like there was that fear. Batman wasn't even necessary. He didn't have to be there, because that's the thing of with Batman. He doesn't necessarily have to be there. It's just a thought of him potentially be there. Just any shadow. The whole point is to put fear into criminals, and I really think that scene signifies that. And as much as I hate the Batman, that opening scene does too. But aside from that, I hate the rest of that fucking film. But those two scenes are like, that is Batman in that sense. Like, he's supposed to be almost like, in a way, it's like kind of supposed to be like there's an urban legend aspect about Batman, to the criminals, that almost just deters them from doing crime. That guy's like, nope, I'm not doing this deal. I'm not doing it. Because there's the thought of him being out there. It's not even necessarily if he is. I mean, he was. He obviously ended up being out there. But just the thought of him potentially being out there, that's how it's supposed to work. So, but yeah, going back to the ship scene. Two-Face kidnaps Gordon's family and lures Gordon to a trap, while Batman ends up trying to stop the SWAT from killing, the criminals, because, he's Batman. He doesn't want people dying. So he takes both the criminals and the cops out, which part of me is like, why is he fighting cops? But okay. And then obviously he ends up finally confronting Joker, which I love that scene. I personally I understood why they did the way they did. They had him end up facing Two-Face in the end, because Harvey was supposed to be the next hero, and it's like he kind of the Batman had to confront what he thought could be the next hero. I understand, but I just think Joker was the main villain. I always feel like if you're gonna have the main villain, he should be the main fight. And realistically, Batman and Joker, it's not gonna be combat. He's not. They're never gonna be. It's more methodical, and it's more like mental with Joker and Batman. Same with, to an extent, Two-Face. Like, Two-Face is not like a fighter either, so you're not gonna get a big fight. It's more of like, it wasn't necessarily a fight with Two-Face either. It was more of like mental, and obviously Bruce took him down, but he ended up killing him by accident. Or no, he ended up falling, but Bruce decided to make it look quick and stop him from shooting Gordon's son. So Bruce takes down the Joker, and I do like he doesn't kill him like they did in '89. I like that they left him alive. And obviously, unfortunately, Heath Ledger died, because obviously the plan was he was supposed to come back in Rises. So that was the plan. That was originally the plan. That's why they kept him alive. So it's obviously sucks what fucking, it's unfortunate what happened. But what could have been? So he tells Bruce about the plan, and then Bruce confronts Harvey, and I do love this final face-off, man. And it really, watching it again last night, was really made me like, I wish he got more scenes. I wish he was in the movie more. Maybe like if he got that injury, became Two-Face, let's say instead of like closer to the last 30 minutes, maybe like the last 40 to 50 minutes to an hour. If he like that early second hour of the film, I think it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect and we could have had more. But it's fine. Sometimes less is more. And I thought Harvey, it did leave you wanting more too. So sometimes that is a good thing to have that. Because every scene, I thought Aaron Eckhart chewed the scenery. And I loved his suit. I thought this, if you wanted to do a live action Two Face, that is how you do it. And it made me like, also, because I rewatched, Batman Forever recently. And it's like, if fucking Tommy Lee Jones just played it like that, man, that could have been great. That movie could have been really good, but no, he played it all goofy. But it is nice to have a good Two Face live action interpretation. He makes the choice, and he's about to shoot Gordon's son. Batman, he ends up slipping, and Bruce tries to save him, and then he falls and breaks his neck. But Batman decides to take the fall for killing Harvey Dent. So Harvey's image isn't destroyed because he still feels like Harvey should still be a symbol, and Gordon's against this. And there's a scene they destroy the bat signal. You have this police start an investigation on Batman, and you have like the Christian Bale giving a speech, and the whole retirement thing. I fucking hate it. I just don't think Batman should retire, at least that young. And this doesn't make sense story wise. I get what Nolan was trying to do, but he should have just did it. If you were going to do that, have it just because he was going into hiding from the police, not because Rachel. No, that wouldn't happen. But aside from that, I really love The Dark Knight. It's still a great film experience. There's a reason it's considered one of the greatest comic book films of all time. And in a lot of people's eyes, it is the greatest comic book film of all time. I wouldn't disagree with them. I think this is very much an iconic film. This is in a league of its own. That score, too, by Hans Zimmer, Hans Zimmer is probably one of my favorite music, like the fact like his music is so iconic for his films, and obviously for the Nolan trilogy. Not my favorite Batman theme to me. I still kind of think Burton's theme still edges it out a little bit, but Danny Elfman's um edges it out. But I do love this one though. The Batman score for this film is fucking incredible. So, along with John Williams, Hans Zimmer to me is up there. He is, Man of Steel, y'all know, I love that score. Which, there's a part of me that really wants to do an updated review on Man of Steel at some point. Maybe I will. Like, maybe in, like, November, when I get done with this, like, October stuff. So, maybe we'll do that. I know it's going to be weird because I'm doing BVS and I'm going to do Man of Steel after, but I don't know. Man of Steel is like, I would not mind watching. That's my favorite Superman film. Whatever I think of Zack Snyder's person now, that film is still fucking incredible to me. So I can't wait to talk about that. And Christopher Nolan was also involved in this because of what he did with, specifically, I would argue with this film, the way he did ground Batman is how you do. The iconic shot of of Batman standing over the rubble, just looking down is so perfect. That was the poster for this film, pretty much. So, to me, I would probably give this, for a comic book film, yeah, this is 10 out of 10, if I'm being honest. This is one of the rare, I just throw a 10 out, but this is, if my only criticism mainly is that Maggie Gyllenhaal wasn't great, or okay, Scarecrow could have been done a bit better. It's still it's a perfect film. The third act is so iconic, man. That's like it. It keeps you really. You're amped, and it almost takes you out of your seat. Especially that third fucking act, man. Because that's how good it is. Especially seeing it in the theater. I saw that in the theater at least twice. I remember seeing it twice at least, and it was just so better the second time. There's a reason it is considered in a lot of people's eyes one of the best comic book films of all time. I don't disagree with people about that. So the plan, like I mentioned, reviewing Intruder later, probably gonna be later tonight. um, I've never seen it. All I got is it's about a killer killing people during a graveyard shift, so that's gonna be interesting. It's a classic '80s horror. We'll see if it's great or not. Just can't wait to watch. I'm honestly kind of anticipating tomorrow doing Exorcist 3 because I remember liking it, but it's gonna be kind of interesting to see it a second time. And in the horror circle, a lot of people consider it a very good film. That's almost as good as the first, or close to the first at least. So that's gonna be fun to talk about. But anyways, guys, gonna call it there. I think Saturday we might. I think we are doing a stream, so look out for that on for Pin Down Podcast. Subscribe to that channel. And yeah, Dark Knight's iconic, and I'll talk to y'all later tonight. All right, y'all. Are you ready to talk to y'all later?